Season 3 of The Pass is here. I know it's long overdue. We have a new intro. We still got the same content. Well, actually, it's a little bit of new content because there's new things going on in 2019. So buckle up. We got a lot of things to talk about on The Pass. What is up? What is going on? Episode 255 of The Pass is here. I am your host, BT. Hope everyone is doing well on this chill, decent, tiptoeing nearing the finish of summer in August. I have not recorded a full show, I'd almost say, in about a month. So if I sound a little off or still trying to get my podcast legs on doing my solo show, y'all just bear with me and let it happen. I will be transparent. Today was a coincidental podcast recording because I knew I was going to be recording today, but I was not sure how I was going to get it done as far as where, when, all those things. But we're here, so no need tripping or fussing. I'm going to do the promo bit first, and it'll be kind of a good blended. If you are looking to get into podcasting, I'm on Spreaker. That is my go-to, one that I always recommend to others based on other podcasters who are using that platform. Libsyn is a go-to as well. And if you're looking to invest in a good microphone, the Blue Yeti is where it's at. That's where you're hearing me, or how you're hearing me on this show today. Today was an interesting morning before recording because right as I was getting ready to start the recording, for whatever reason, it looked as though my mic, I was getting ready to leave the house, and I'm getting ready to close the door, and I was like, something feels light, something's missing. Didn't have my microphone. So I go back in to get the microphone. I have a case. If you're looking at getting a good case to hold any products, I personally I'm team Hermit Shell. I've been using Hermit Shell cases for quite some time, and for whatever reason, it's worked for me. So it's kind of almost like the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I've also realized since doing my shows, I don't use my pop filter. Well, I use a pop filter, but I don't use a windscreen anymore. And I guess it's helped the show more than it has hurt it. But I went back in to get the microphone, got the microphone, had it in the case, and I guess I didn't zip it properly, so the microphone fell. We're gonna knock on wood and hope that it stays up for a while, because I don't want to have to go through the process I did before where I had to run out and get a mic mid-show or mid-recording or whatever. Not in an actual show, but I had to kind of take a break on doing shows and then come back with a new mic. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our shows and let it kind of rock. The big three, I've been a little behind on updating or sharing any information related to the big three, but the season is starting to pick up pretty quickly. So there are 6 teams who have already played 7 games. The other 6 teams have played 7 games. The other teams are only at 6 based on scheduling, because they had a week where there were only 3 games instead of the full 6 block. So in a couple weeks, that's going to be those other teams that had not played that 7th game will be caught up, and everything will kind of flow in sync. ISO Joe, what more is there to say? That's been kind of the theme of Big Three, if you've been keeping up with the Big Three rundown, and that's kind of what it's been. It's been the Big Three. ISO Joe, you had Power, kind of, who the defending world champs, and it's kind of an interesting of defending Big Three champs. You have the first year's Big Three champs in the top four, as well as last year's Big Three champs in the top four. So out of the 12 teams, the 4 teams with the best record are able to get into the playoffs. And that's kind of what the scenario is this year. It's a little different because there are a lot more teams, and looking at they do it based on who had the better record, wins, losses against other teams, and things of that sort. So right now it's the triplets. It's triplets, Power, Trilogy, and Bivouac. There was a record-setting moment for the point guard for Bivouac, who had the most points in a single game. He had 33. Will Bynum. I'm sitting here like I was gonna get this name. If I messed it up, we can just end the show here. We're done recording. But he was able to get set that record. I thought Joe Johnson would get that, but no, he had an interesting game because they played against the Three-Headed Monsters, and they were ahead by 4. They only needed 4 points to win, and Joe Johnson just out of nowhere just stepped into a 4-pointer, and he had Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf checking him, and he hit it like it was nothing but net. So that's kind of where we are with the Big Three and where things are as of right now. If you have not been aware or may or may not know, baseball is at its turning curve and some big deals went down. The biggest deal that everyone that hit the latest that no one expected was Zach Greinke joining the Astros. And he left the Diamondbacks in exchange for a couple players. There were a lot of pitchers who did a lot of movement. There wasn't that. I mean, that was kind of the theme. There wasn't any other big names that really moved, and that was it. I think the only one that was a shocker more than any of them was Yasiel Puig leaving the Reds. So it was the Reds got Trevor Bauer from the Indians, and the Indians got Yasiel Puig, a minor league pitcher, Scott Moss, from Franmil Reyes, Logan Allen, and minor league third baseman Victor Nova. And also the Padres were part of this deal as well with getting Taylor Trammell from the minor league. What makes this trade interesting was Yasiel Puig, not long before this occurred, was involved in a brawl against another team. I can't remember the team offhand, but he was part of a fight. And in the midst of that all occurring, he ended up being traded. Now, I don't think that had anything to do with the trade, but it was just a coincidence of timing. So that's the full gist of that story as far as with trade deadlines. If you want to look at all the trades, I do have the link in the show notes, so you can definitely check that out on your time. Going into football, we are officially in football season. Once the Hall of Fame game has been played, once the ceremonial moment, they did talk about, or we saw Ed Reed's shirt, which I think was a great dedication or a way of presenting his feelings toward those who have been lost in gun violence involving black men. It was a great presentation, which I had no knock against whatsoever. But they did, there were other players who were inducted into the Hall, but he had that shirt on Thursday night when Denver played Atlanta. Denver, I believe, won 14-7. Big story of that game was, or a big moment in the game was, I think Denver scored, and they kind of mimicked like playing ping pong, which I thought was cool. We're going to see how creative people get with touchdown celebrations this year. Also, the pass interference review flag was played this time on this game, and I know I'm using like horrible higher pitch, but I'm sharing that because they made an attempt on trying to reverse a call or challenge a call, but the call still stood because there wasn't any proof to go against there not being pass interference, because there indeed was. So I did something different, and I'm going to I'm not going to type all these out now. I'm going to type them out when I do my editing on my end. That's me being transparent, as y'all know. So we're in the 100th season of the NFL. And this year, I'm going to try to see if I can project the divisional winners and the conference breakdown to lead us to Super Bowl 53, I believe, or 54. I'm sorry, 54. That's how quick we've kind of coasted through Super Bowls. But yes, we will be getting the breakdowns on. I will give you who I think will be making their mark on getting into the Super Bowl this year. So I'll make sure. Yep, 54. Still crazy that the last Super Bowl score was 13-3. I'm thinking in my head, like when we talked about it, did it get a lot of attention? But I don't think we gave it a lot of talk. But anywho, progressing to this year, starting with the AFC East, I'm giving it to New England. If there's a team that could possibly get a wild card slot, maybe the Jets, depending on Le'Veon Bell. Moving to the AFC North, everyone likes Cleveland because they look good on paper, but it's still the Cleveland Browns. Pittsburgh is in a rebuild mode. Baltimore is kind of in a rebuild mode. Cincinnati's going to have a rough point in their startup with AJ Green being out. For the division, I'm going to take Pittsburgh only because they have been. Because, I don't know what to expect from Lamar Jackson this year. Just my immediate hot take on that. AFC South, this is where I think this is where your wild card team will come in. Like I said, I said the Jets maybe, but I'm giving New England that division, so that's kind of it. AFC South, I'm giving it to the Colts. Luck is going to have a breakout year. I'm claiming that now. I know Houston has their quarterback coming back that was with Clemson. Can't remember his name. But I would take the Colts, and as a wild card, I'm taking Tennessee. Early choice, but we're just going to ride that wave. AFC West, I'm not going to really blow anybody's mind, but I'm going to say it. Denver should win the division this year. I know Kansas City had a great run this year. I feel like Denver is going to surprise a lot of people, especially with Joe Flacco having a lot to prove with a chip on his shoulder, with being traded, things of that sort. And I'm putting Kansas City as the wild card team. Now, Kansas City could win the division, obviously, but I'm just kind of, like I said, I'm just throwing names and seeing what could possibly stick. Jumping over to the NFC, this is where I always love talking about the NFC East because everyone knows, if you have ever listened to any of my sports podcasts of NFL, there will always be a love-hate relationship for the NFC East because it's an abusive division, not in a bad way, but in a competitive way. That being said, I won't take the Giants, and I like Saquon Barkley, but I'm taking Dallas. I'll give Dallas a division, and possibly the Redskins as a wild card. I don't know, only because it's each team, like in this past season, they proved my point. If you come out of the division with 10 wins, that's huge. And even in the case of divisional wins, Dallas had the best record division-wise. They were 5-1, but the rest of your 5 losses came against teams that weren't in your division, and they were all on the road. So that's like even worse. But I'm sorry, 5 of those losses were on the road. Well, no, okay, never mind. I'm right. 5 of the losses were on the road to non-division teams, and your one home loss was against a division team. So there's that. Going to the NFC North, Did I before I continue? I want to confirm. I did say Dallas is going to win the division. I'm giving Washington the wild card. Don't know. NFC North, Green Bay. No wild cards suspected. I could go on a limb and say Minnesota, but I don't know. And that's just kind of where I'm at. NFC South, as we all know, it's usually top to bottom, bottom to top every year. It's also been proven that the last couple of years that kind of switched up when Carolina won 3 straight division championships, but still sucked in the playoffs. So I'm going to kind of stick with tradition and put New Orleans as the front runner. Maybe Tampa Bay as a wild card. So right now, I'm at Dallas, Washington, Green Bay, New Orleans, and Tampa Bay. Like I would say Atlanta, but the Matt Ryan, Julio Jones is always a question mark. And finally, in the NFC West, Arizona's going to be trash this year, and I've claimed it already. I'm not speaking negative on Arizona University. Let me make that perfectly clear. I just know as a team, I'm just not sold yet on Arizona, and I like Fitzgerald. That's the worst part. But for the division, Garoppolo should be back. The Rams still look good. They didn't really do anything major during the offseason. I'm going to take Seattle. So those are my picks. We'll reconvene on this episode when we get to our 270-ish, if not 280-ish status of potting, and see if I've kind of stuck to my word as to who I believe is going to win the divisions or possibly. Oh, all right. I did divisions. Good. Okay. Super Bowl picks. So based on the teams that I chose, barring something stupid or weird, I would say New England's going back again. And they will likely play New Orleans. Bold, scathing, hot takes. Premium content on the pass. I'm really not, because I'm not even, like, I just named teams. I haven't even divisionally broken them down. I haven't done like a win-loss of who's in. None of that's being put into this equation. It's just me picking off of raw preseason promise. Because we haven't really seen any teams play, along with the fact that no teams are really going to play anybody for long stints. Like, even with the Browns, they're not going to play Mayfield and OBJ a lot during the preseason. They're going to save it for when it matters, which is regular season. So that's that, and that's everything I have for the NFL. To all my bicyclists, yes, that is a word. And I had to make sure I said it in my head correctly before I just flew off the handle, no pun intended. I have neglected the Tour de France this year. I've neglected the Tour de France for a couple of years. I don't really have any solid reason. I'm in the, as you would call it, the post Lance Armstrong watching, because I was a Lance fan. I didn't watch it much afterward, so I was not really tracking it or even aware of it to its extent like I normally would be for the cyclists. All that being said, Egan Bernal was the winner of the Tour de France this year. He was with Team Ineos. They break, and this is 2%, by the way, because I normally would have never thought of these breakdowns on the Tour de France. But we'll read. I'm gonna briefly give the article some love, and then we'll kind of talk about it. Egan Bernal won the Tour de France in Paris, his and Colombia's first, while Lotto Soudal's Caleb Ewan won the final stage, making it Australians' third triumph at this year's race. Bernal crossed the finish line on the Champs Elysees in 29th place on the stage, again hand in hand with teammate and 2018 Tour champion Geraint Thomas, just like the pair had on the previous day into Val Thorens. What could have become a problematic situation for Team Ineos was anything but in the last few days of the Tour, as Thomas conceded that Bernal was the better rider at this year's race. And they just kind of go into a little bit of information regarding the race itself. And there was, like I said, this was stage 21. So there are 21 stages of the race, and there are different shirts that you wear. There's the green shirt, the yellow shirt, the polka dot shirt, and the red shirt. And I forgot specifically what they're for, but there's so many. But it is one of the biggest racing events that happens every year. So as a pod and as a platform, I am going to make it my best to present this as a future topic on upcoming shows, because I do know that there are fans who are true supporters of the Olympics. Oh, I'm sorry, of the Tour de France. So the NBA has decided, and we as media people, I even did this when I was talking about my blog. So I'm going to give a personal story, and then I'm going to talk about it with this. I write a blog, and I keep it every week. For whatever reason, the blog that I was initially planning to schedule today got leaked. So I did it being funny, because somebody asked me, they was like, how did it leak? You're the one that wrote it. And I was like, well, I mean, I published it, but I was supposed to schedule it, so it ended up just being put out. So I was like, you know what, screw it. It's already out. No need trying to like go back and change it and adjust anything. I just left it as is and kept it moving. And here we are. So it worked out and everything was good. But the NBA and media has to stop with saying like these things leaked. If something is going to be made available, it's going to be made available. Like even with Evo, Street Fighter V, they already had the characters out and they had the videos released. But Capcom did the official release that night, or the Capcom's official release didn't happen during Evo, so that kind of caught people off guard a little bit. But in hindsight, it wasn't the end of the world, you could say. But anywho, pushing to October the 22nd will be the start date of the NBA, and we have the two games that will be played on opening night. New Orleans will be playing against the Toronto Raptors. I'm paraphrasing, but I feel like this would be the logical thing to do. The New Orleans Pelicans with Zion are gonna play the world champion Toronto Raptors without Kawhi Leonard. Relevant reason to state that. And Danny Green won't be on that team because they'll both be playing in the second game. Danny Green will be playing for the Lakers, Kawhi playing for the Clippers. So Lakers and Clippers will be I feel like will be the second game. And we were able to also receive note that the official Christmas games got quote unquote leaked. They were able to present those as expected. And we're getting rematches from last year's series, but they're going to be without various players or including other players. For instance, Rockets are playing the Warriors. Big series between these two over the last 3 or 4 years during the playoffs. But here's where it's different this year. Chris Paul's not playing. Kevin Durant's not playing. Russell Westbrook is going to be playing, but Durant's not going to be on the Warriors. He's in Brooklyn, but not playing. Celtics and Raptors are playing against each other. that will be one of Kimba's show out games, especially with him going to Boston to kind of, I won't say be the savior, but to kind of fill the shoes of Kyrie. And I don't know if that's really a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing either. Let me state that before I continue. The Pelicans, Zion got opening night and he got Christmas night or Christmas Day. You'll get to see him and Jokic go against each other. You're going to see two different speeds of basketball from both guys because Zion is just quick and Jokic kind of plays at a smooth, chill pace, but he still gets buckets with no shame. You then have the Bucks and the Sixers. What more is there to say? Of course, we know about Giannis, how much Giannis and Embiid have a love-hate relationship for each other. The question remains, and I am talking about it on this show because it's important to address. Will Ben Simmons shoot a jumper? Forget shooting a three. Will he be comfortable shooting a jumper? I am the bad guy because they've shown videos of him shooting. I'm the bad guy. I don't think he's going to shoot any shots this year. There's a strong chance we may see some shooting during the All-Star break if he makes the All-Star team, which I feel like unless something crazy happens, he'll probably have an All-Star year. But I'm not seeing him shooting the ball this year, just in my opinion. And finally, Lakers and Clippers are going to be playing. Lakers and Clippers will probably be the late night game. I think the Zion and Jokic game will probably be the second game. Bucks and Sixers are going to be your early game. I would say that'll probably be a third game. The first game is going to be Boston and Raptors, Celtics and Raptors. And the fourth game, Rockets and Warriors, because of the time zone factor. I'm looking forward to seeing the Warriors when they play in their new arena, because I know that's going to be a big deal and a big story. So we'll keep an eye on that when that occurs. That becomes like a big story, or it's just kind of like, hey, they playing another game. Let's see if they can continue their home sellout streak of some sort. So that's all of our sports that we have, and there was quite a bit, but I didn't really. I mean, it's not that there wasn't anything interesting. It was just, it happened, and that's kind of it. We're gonna get into stuff now, and the first thing that happened that I'm gonna chop it up and talk about is Fortnite did have the World Cup. It was one of the biggest events. There were over 2 million people who watched it, and the competition, the prize pool was for $3 million. I'm upset because I wanted to, and I don't have a Wall Street Journal subscription, so I did not get to see the actual article in full about how even with this kid who won the event, all of the money he won did not go to him because he had to pay back based on sponsorships and things of that sort. But Kyle Buga Giersdorf won the prize and the title of Best Fortnite Player in the World. He started off the day strong, winning the first of his 6 games. In the next 5 games, he continued to accumulate more eliminations, giving him the point lead. He kept the top spot throughout the day, giving him a commanding lead in the last game, where it seemed almost impossible for him to lose. He did become a guest on Jimmy Fallon. As they call it, he did the tour of, I won't say the 15-minute tour, but he was, he ran his course as far as being that winner. Saturday was duos tournament. The European team of Emil Narox Bergquist, Peterson, and David Aqua W took the championship. They won $3 million. The players won 2 of 6 games, giving them the most points among 50 teams who were competing. This event did happen in, if I'm not mistaken, it was in LA. I always like to give you the full scoop on what's going down. But yeah, that's kind of the A to Z version of Fortnite and what happened. And this event was held. So the event itself was held at the Arthur Ashe Stadium. So let's see. This past weekend, developer Epic Games put on the biggest Fortnite spectacle to date at the world's largest tennis stadium in New York. The company held the first. So I was way off. I wasn't even in LA. Let's try New York. Held the first Fortnite World Cup Finals. It was, as the name implies, a chance to watch the best players in the world compete against each other for a share of a massive $30 million pool. Those who made it went through a grueling 10-week qualification process against millions of other players, but the weekend was also more than just a competition. Fortnite has long been the largest game in the world. If not in terms of pure player count, then surely in terms of cultural influence. The Fortnite World Cup celebrated that. There was thrilling competition, which was spread across 4 different tournaments, featuring huge names like Ninja, Tfue. But the World Cup was also a home to a miniature Fortnite amusement park, a marshmallow concert, a tease of the game's upcoming 10th season, which looks pretty good from what I've seen so far. There are some minor tweaks that are some fun things that they've added into the game, and multiple moments that blurred the line between the game and the real world. It was a chance for Epic to show off just how big Fortnite really is. There were a number of attractions pulled directly from the game, creating what best described as a miniature theme park. You could ride a zip line or roll around in a giant ball, and there was a Lazy Links mini golf course and a giant pirate ship. DJ Yonder, a robotic llama, was behind the turntables. Kids walked around carrying plastic cups filled with branded Slurp juice, and fans lazed around in beanbags next to supply drop crates. The crowd on hand was fairly diverse, particularly in terms of age. This was an event for kids and adults, and they go into more detail about the event in its entirety. Fortnite. So, and this is where I get to do my little dissertation and breakdown after usually I'll read an article and just run to the next thing, but this I'm going to talk about a little bit, because the next topic will kind of be why this is important to address. Fortnite is a very unique community. My roommate and I had this conversation not far back, and I can talk about it a little bit more now in watching it kind of come to fruition. And that is, as long as a game has a stable or a solid community, there's going to be a game in existence. Perfect example. Street Fighter 4 was not one of the greatest games. Let's call a spade a spade. But those who played Street Fighter 4 and were devoted and dedicated to learning the tech or the meta of Street Fighter 4 play Street Fighter 5. Now, it's not, okay, I'm playing it because I'm part of a league and I'm part of esports and I have to keep up with it. It's, I'm supporting my game, I'm going to perfect my craft, I'm going to learn the characters, etc., etc. Fast forward, and Fortnite did the same thing. When Fortnite first came out, no one really expected it to really pop and stick the way it did. Once it got the backing of your big streamers, say your Summits, your Nick28, all of your YouTubers and your content creators, obviously Ninja, Tfue, a lot of Jericho, a lot of guys who play Fortnite and like Fortnite, they supported and kept Fortnite relevant. Now, this then brings up the next question that no one really wants to talk about, but you have to address it because it's part of the equation. With the game going the direction it has, or going the direction it is it still going to be relevant years from now? And if you want to be honest, the answer is yes. what keeps a game like this circulating and keeps a game like this on its toes is there's always something to do. It's not like, okay, you open the game, you play it, and that's it. It's, okay, it's new things I found. There are new people that I'm meeting. There are more folks who like this game just as much as I do. And we're all fans of said game, which in this case, obviously, is Fortnite. But it's also the underlying layer of it expanded on something that a lot of people weren't a fan of, and they became a fan of it by playing the game. Because most people, and I'm going to say this for myself. Do I like watching people play Fortnite? Absolutely. Am I good at playing Fortnite? No. The reason why Fortnite does not work for how I play is because I am a running gun shooter. I want to get in the game, shoot, get characters, build up, rank up, things of that sort. If I'm put in a position where I have to shoot, build, farm, all in a fighting game, no. Minecraft, okay, I got you. But in a shooting game where I'm trying to get weapons, get bricks and wood and metal to build while still trying not to get killed by other people on the map, yeah, we won't be. It's not going to last long for me. But it still doesn't say that it's not a good game. Because, the key make or break to a game, and I say this time and time again, and I'm always going to bring it back to this, is the replay value. If you pick it up and play it, and you're likely to play it again in a couple of years or in a couple of months, that means that it's kept or maintained its replay value. So that's kind of the simpler A to Z version of this article and why the Fortnite World Cup was very big and very huge to the community, and people really showed up and showed out to support it. I feel bad because I didn't put these in order, but we're gonna do this. Let's slide the okay. So, if you do or do not know, speaking of Fortnite, one of the big names that has been mentioned, that anytime you hear the word or hear the term Fortnite, the first person or the first thing that comes to mind is Ninja, or Tyler Blevins. And I'm probably mispronouncing his last name, but let me make sure. Yes, Tyler Blevins is making one of the biggest transitions, and no one's trying to. This is a conversation I had with my roommate, and this is something I'm going to talk about on the show. He left Twitch, and he's going to Mixer. Now, the first question that a lot of people are going to ask or think of is, well, how is that helping him, and where does that leave Twitch? Twitch is like any other platform. A big name can come, and a big name can go. But if you're in that creating space of what you're doing, you're going to get your exposure. So I'm going to talk about that in a bit, but I'm going to talk about this article first, and then we'll kind of really get into it. Tyler Ninja Blevins, the biggest name of Fortnite and one of Twitch's most popular stars, is leaving the platform to stream exclusively on Mixer. The news comes via tweet from the streaming star, with him dubbing the move the next chapter. Mixer is a fledgling stream service owned by Microsoft that launched as Beam back in 2016 and rebranded later in 2017. The Ninja exclusivity marks a major get for the platform, which has struggled to catch up to the competitors like Twitch and YouTube. I've been holding on to this for quite some time, and I'm super excited to let everyone know I'll be streaming on Mixer full-time now, and I'm honestly at a loss of words. I'm freaking out in the best ways. I feel like I'm going to get back to the streaming roots. Ninja then goes on to say that his streams will be the exact same, so do not expect Ninja to get away from Fortnite anytime soon. Um, Twitch said we've loved Ninja on Twitch over the years and are proud of all that he's accomplished for himself and his family and the gaming community. We wish him the best and of luck in his future endeavors. Mixer then went on to say, we're thrilled to welcome Ninja and his community to Mixer. Mixer is a place that was formed around being positive and welcoming from day one, and we look forward to the energy Ninja and his community will bring. This is not, and let me state one thing. There's some more information that's kind of briefly talked about regarding Ninja. You can check it out in the article as well. Ninja was not the only streamer who is exclusively on Mixer. There are other streamers who, and I can't, because there's one girl who I followed on Twitch for a while. She went over to Mixer. A lot of your larger names who have a strong following or strong support system, the strong base, are moving to Mixer. This one was a lot bigger because no one expected it, number one. And number two, and most importantly, it happened at a good point where it wouldn't have had, it doesn't have as big of an impact as everybody think it does, other than the fact that Ninja moved to Mixer. Now, where does that leave Twitch? Twitch will be fine. Twitch has hundreds of streamers. Mixer has hundreds of streamers. The difference is this is going to increase Mixer's viewing, because now, after you watch Ninja stream, you can check out some other streamers who are probably as good, if not at the same place as Ninja in Fortnite, that are on that platform. So it works out in the end if you really think about it. So let's let this acquisition take its toll and go through its process, and then afterward, if it's like, okay, well, it wasn't meant for it to be, he decides to leave. But I don't see him leaving Mixer. I think Mixer is going to work for him because he's going to kind of be like the head honcho in the Mixer community. Content creators on YouTube are looking to join forces and come together to go against content creators are trying to go against YouTube, and YouTube has to respond to this in regards to where things stand. A group of YouTubers is teaming up with Europe's largest trade union to lobby for greater transparency. Until recently, the YouTubers Union was a community group with little power of its own, but it has now teamed up with IG Metall, the German metal workers union. IG Metall is one of the oldest unions in Germany, and over its lifetime has expanded to cover workers in industries including electrical engineering, IT, plastics, and textiles. The YouTube Union was formed last year amid tensions between YouTube and the content creators who post videos to the platform, but as a community group rather than a true union. It had little power to back up its position. The new joint initiative, called FairTube, aims to pressure the platform to be more transparent about its rules and decisions, especially in regard to monetization and demonetization of videos. It goes on to say, with the support of IG Metall, the campaign intends to examine the legality of YouTube's policy in the European Union. The announcement video suggests legal strategies, including questioning whether content creators should be considered employees of the site and using Europe's General Data Protection Regulation Law, or GDPR, which most of you know, to enforce greater transparency over personal data. The campaign says it will begin its legal examination if the site does not respond to its demands by August 23rd. So one, this is not in America. Two, this is important based in Europe, because streamers should get their worth. And I'm all for that. I feel as though if you have a service or you're getting something and using YouTube, you should not be getting the short end of the stick. And this is no exception to that rule. So that is where and what this is all about and how it kind of transpired to become like this big deal for the YouTubers who are creating and feeling like they're not being treated properly in the community of YouTube. So I've got no problem with this. I know it's not like me just jumping on board and agreeing with it, but it's important because you want to make sure that the creators are getting what they deserve from YouTube. So that's kind of what it is. So next up, we have a story I did not expect I would be reporting, but since it happened, we're going to talk about it. And matter of fact, we're just going to talk about the story without giving a lot of insider information other than it happened and people need to learn how to be cordial in what they share. I'll put it like that. So if you have been under a rock and if you have not been made aware, Capital One had their system hacked and there was some data that had been breached. And the person who was involved with this, their name is Paige A. Thompson, who is a former software engineer from Seattle. It was one of the biggest, this was considered as one of the biggest bank data breaches in history. They were arrested for allegedly hacking into a server rented by Capital One and obtaining data from more than 100 million people. It's not clear if any of the information was passed to third parties. They're currently looking into that now. And she was charged with one count of computer fraud and abuse and faces up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. The problem with this story, now the article that I'm sharing adds those pieces in, but this article is shared because the person who this young lady, Ms. Thompson, indeed was very social about this, and they were seen, or it was read where she was gloating online about this. Her gloating continued even after those days, after those she was communicating with warned her that what she was doing was sketchy, telling her, "Don't go to jail, please." Screenshots in a federal criminal complaint were filed on Monday's show. Ultimately, it was that online trail of brags plus the occasional mention of cats that authorities said led them to Paige A. Thompson. And we just gave the information of, who she was. At least once since March, Thompson allegedly got access to the data through a misconfigured security feature and then posted it to GitHub, a platform typically used for software development projects, the 12-page criminal complaint says. In the complaint, FBI agent Joel Martini detailed how the boasts and other online clues, which appeared on GitHub, Twitter, the social network Meetup, and the messaging platform Slack, quickly led him to Thompson, who once worked for Amazon Web Services. The FBI was first alerted to the breach when an unidentified individual sent a note to Capital One's security hotline email address, informing the company that there appears to be some leaked data on GitHub. Another one of these leaked things again. That should have been the title. You know what? I'm going to change it when we're done. Informing the company there appears to be leaked data on GitHub. The web address for the GitHub page included Thompson's full name, including her middle name, Martini wrote. Also on the GitHub page was Thompson's resume with her home address. Not reading all the rest of this because this is just dumb. Like, criminals confirm every time how stupid they are. And this is a prime example. And I'm not going to get too loud or give more emphasis to it than that. But it's a true statement. we sometimes don't understand that we don't need to be boastful about what we're doing. You can just do what you're doing, keep it moving. And that's just basically what happened. So that is that for that with that story. Another data breach story happened at E3. E3's data breach had leaked info for thousands of the journalists, which is really bad, especially because there are a lot of journalists who come to these events for companies, say IGN, GameSpot, GameStop, Engadget, Kotaku, The Verge. All of them, are in these events. Thanks to a staggering bit of negligence on the part of the organization that manages E3, the last and worst leak this year affects people from the media who covered the event. As pointed out on YouTube by Sophia Narwitz, a spreadsheet was available on the E3 website listing detailed contact information for over 2,000 journalists, content creators, analysts, and others who applied for and received credentials to the event this year. The list apparently existed so that video game companies could reach news media and content creators they wanted to contact about coverage, but it's obviously not intended to become publicly available. Yeah, we're going to call this story, we're calling this podcast leaked. In a statement, the ESA said, once notified, we immediately took steps to protect the data and shut down the site, which is no longer available. We regret this occurrence and have put measures in place to ensure it will not occur again. And that's kind of the cut and dry version of that story. So more information was leaked. I kind of gave the Capital One story brief attention, but I'm going to talk about it. Data breaches are very key and very important to acknowledge when they occur, because they can happen at the blink of an eye where least expected. And this is no exception with Capital One's data as well as E3 journalist data, because if that list was given in for its purpose, then it should be used for such and not to be used in the wrong context. And that's basically what happened. So that's kind of the condensed, quick version of that story. Before we get into our ass of the week and our pass of the week. Pass of the week is going to be very hard. I'm going to try to get through it as best as I can. Since we last recorded, a lot of music dropped. I am not going to sit here and try to name all the artists and musicians who have presented or performed various albums. I did not write it on here, but I will say Dreamville's album, pretty good. I finally listened to Chris Brown's album, enjoy it. Drake's retro album, as I'm going to call it, which was kind of a re-release. It was kind of like I would call it a Lucy release. It was pretty good. I have been catching some Spotify shares. I have made a playlist on Spotify, and I'm going to call it, it's called Unique Playlist. If it's certain songs that I found that really caught my attention, I'm putting them there. And I'm also using my playlists that are recommended for like new releases or like release radar, because one, I've officially reached my Spotiversary. And I know this is used for employees who work at Spotify, but for me, it's a Spotiversary because I've officially been with Spotify for over a year. I'm not going to talk about everything with Spotify today because that's not what this music session is about. But I was able to get a lot of good recommendations on music and listens over the year, within the past year. Devon Terrell brought out his new album, Raw Part 1. And it's just a good cohesion. It's a good, and I know people use the cohesion term redundantly, but I'm going to share it because it's a true statement and it fits what was being said. So definitely listen to that album, and it's one that you'll enjoy. I will say that. Moving to our ass of the week. It's a weird ass of the week, but it's a funny one. This happened in Indianapolis back on July the 15th. a police officer accused the local McDonald's of taking a bite out of his McChicken sandwich. It then generated a police investigation, only to find out that the culprit to find out that what he did was he purchased the McChicken sandwich, small fries, and some chocolate chip cookies with the receipt to prove it. But the main sandwich was the only thing affected. The greatest plot twist happened, which was the officer ate his own sandwich and did not remember. The statement read, the employee took a bite out of the sandwich upon starting his shift at the Marion County Jail, then placed it in the refrigerator in a break room. He returned nearly 7 hours later, having forgotten that he had previously bitten the sandwich. He wrongly concluded that a McDonald's restaurant employee had tampered with his food because he's a law enforcement officer. Food is a powerful thing, driving people to extreme emotions of pleasure, or in this case, a lapse of memory. The hilarious blunder comes after the man told WTHR he wanted to see the person responsible dealt with in an appropriate way. I started to warm up my chicken and noticed several small bites. I know I didn't eat it. No one else was around. I said, you know what? I'm going to McDonald's to see if they can get this taken care of. He returned to McDonald's, confronting the manager. He offered free food as a compensation. Alas, this was not adequate justice. He then went on to say, I just wanted to find out who the person was, and they dealt with that person in an appropriate way. Now that the misunderstanding is all tickety-boo, the sheriff's office statement assured that McDonald's staff had not tampered with the sandwich in any way. Let's be honest. And they give a little funny part at the end. Have you ever marched around your home scrambling to find your phone, then realized it was in your pocket all along? This is kind of like that, but much funnier, because it is stupid. Like, there's no way in the world you took a bite out of a sandwich, put it in the fridge, let it sit for 7 hours, and then realize somebody bit my sandwich that you put in the fridge. Like, it's no, like, and then the other factor of it, I guess I'm looking at is McDonald's, as with most fast food restaurants, when they package product, they package it a specific way. So no one else can package your sandwich except you. Like, no one's going to unpackage a burger, eat it, and then put it in a bag. You would have noticed it was eaten, or you would have caught on to that like immediately. Not, you done went home, brought the food home, brought it to work, ate it, and then turned around and said, my sandwich got eaten. Nah, dog, you definitely DJ our ass of the week for this one. Like, this might be ass of the year. This is a potential ass of the year. I'm gonna go ahead and speak that in the universe now. To go to the other side, and I'm not gonna make light of this story only because this is a real story. Obviously, and I'm not. The other story was a real story, but this one is a very touching story. First and foremost, I am not gonna come to give. I mean, as with, out of respect, give thoughts and prayers to those who were lost in these shootings. And it's tough because that's all that we're able to give and all that we usually are natural in saying. But I'm going to give a different statement. America has to acknowledge the problem. We're trying to find a solution. That's not what we're supposed to do. We need to find the problem. The problem is right in front of us. The problem is that people do not know, like, the availability of guns is retarded. I don't understand it here, especially here in the U.S. Access to weaponry is out of control. And we witnessed the importance of why it's out of control in these two incidents that occurred. El Paso, Texas, and it was confirmed today, the death toll has reached 21. It was initially stated as 20. But 21 people were killed and 26 were injured. 6 of those people were Mexican nationals. Police did arrest the gunman, he's from Dallas. I'm not going to give his name. The FBI then opened a domestic terrorism investigation into the shooting. The chaos extended far from the store. Dozens of businesses and homes as far as 3 miles away, and the largest mall in the city, just next door to the Walmart, were on lockdown for hours and closed early. The other story happened in Ohio. A night out turned into chaos and this happened 13 hours after the El Paso shooting. 27 people were injured, 9 were killed before the gunman was shot by the police. The shooting took place at around 1 a.m. outside on East 5th Street in the city's Oregon district. Authorities identified the suspect just outside of Dayton. He wore a mask, body armor, and hearing protection. The dead included 5 men and 4 women. One of the people who were murdered was his sister. The shooting happened as the suspect was making his way towards a bar called Ned Pepper's. Montgomery County Emergency Services spokesperson said, which sent people running for cover. We really do have to do better as a community and as a country. It's just tough out here, man. And little things like this is where I understand when it comes to those who have children to love and value your loved ones. And, give your kids a hug. Because a lot of kids now don't like affection. I get it. Like, I've been there. I'm the affectionate one, oddly enough, but it's the other side of it where you really kind of understand it even more. I just don't know, man. I hurt for those who are going through this, man. Like, when America is like at that point where they seem like they're about to get it together, we turn right back around and do some other dumb stuff. And this is a perfect example. So I'm not really going to give like a major, I'm not going to give a major amount of foresight on this, but I'm just going to kind of state, like, I hope that those who have witnessed or experienced this are getting the proper help, because this is not the best experience to deal with or go through. And that's kind of that's all I have. We have not been, well, I've been doing it on my show. Well, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I've been doing it on the show when I've had guests on, but I'm doing it today as a share and a message to let those know how important it is to get through life. And someone shared this as a message, and when they put it, I kind of was like taken back, but I was like, you know what? This is gonna be my wave. First and foremost, I'm gonna claim her as a friend. She may be viewed as a friend of the show. She did mention she's not a big sports fan, and I'm okay with that. I'll never knock a person's preference on podcasts, because we have hundreds of thousands of podcasts now. So I'm never gonna say, well, you have to listen to sports podcasts because I do. No, because there are other topics and other forms of content. But the Honey Files is my podcast connect now. Tanisha, I'm just gonna say Tanisha. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right. If I'm not, let me know. But she has 3 episodes now. I need to go back and listen to 76 because she mentioned in one of her Instagram stories or posts that 76, 77, and 78 all had this message, and this is the message that I'm passing to you all to close out this show. The main statement is, things will always work for me when I surrender. If you don't get nothing else, or you don't get anything else from this message, things will always work for me when I surrender. Tell yourself that. If you need to pause this podcast and type that out and write it out somewhere and put it on a dryer, something to remind you of how important that is. things will always work for me when I surrender. And it's a coincidence because when I was listening to her podcast, I believe it was 77. I'm sorry, it was 70. When I listened to episode 78, there was a part where it was talking about, she literally said, "You gotta let it go, man." And I was just like, wow. But it was actually episode 77 that said that, because I remember recording the video. Like when I had the video on my phone, I was like, yep, this one is gonna hit and it's gonna hurt, but I need this hurt. Matter of fact, premium content. I'm gonna let it play. Hopefully it's not too loud.
Faith. Oh my gosh. In order for faith to work, you gotta let it go, man. You have to release it. Releasing without worry, just like prayer without worry, that's 100% faith. That's 100% trust that whatever is going to work out for you is for you. And if it's not working out, guess what?
Yeah, let it go. Learn to let go. Let life go through its process. And I'm sharing episode 78 because that's her last episode she did, but follow her on Anchor. Her podcast is on all major platforms. I started listening on Spotify because obviously I'm a Spotify addict. We got like 4,000 podcasts that I'm supposed to be listening to on Spotify and have not even started. But definitely check out her show and learn to let go. Like, we hold on to so much. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men. No, I'm just kidding. We hold a very strong tie to wanting things to work, but we want the faith, but we don't want to let go in letting faith do its work. And we have to get better with that as people. I'm here to tell you all, I have fought myself on numerous occasions for various things that I want to happen when I want it to happen. And I'm being forced to remember it's not my time. I need to let life take its course. And it's okay if it doesn't happen on my time. If it happens, it happens. A Bible verse that I read, and it's literally the reason I have my dad's birthday in a digital time format. It's Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1. And I know I've been kind of like around the way about doing it, but y'all know me. I'm going to do things the way that I feel it works. And if you value it, you'll do with it as you will. Make sure I get the right version of this later. To everything there is a reason and a time to every purpose under the heaven. And that's literally the best way. I mean, and it breaks down the different times or the different points. There are times we need to listen, and there are times we need to speak. There's a time we need to break down things, there's times we need to build up. Like, it's a time, there really is a time for everything. And you have to know when that time is meant to occur. And if you miss it, it may not come back. So value, and this kind of almost goes into what I've mentioned before about how important it is to value your time. Because it literally and truly is your time. No one else can give you your time but you. So I guess it's the 2 for 1. Like, let go and let faith work, and value your time. And that's what I'm gonna close with, because if I keep talking, we'll be here for like another 30 minutes. This is the Pass Podcast. I'm your host, BT, as always. Check me out on all social media, Pass Podcast, PASS Podcast. If you want to send in any inquiries, send in any information, passpodcastbt@gmail.com. I check my emails. I always do my best to respond because there's always something in the ground or in the water to really get into. So that's all I got. Until next time, this is the Paz signing out. Y'all take it easy. Another episode is in the books. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. As I always share, if you'd like to get into podcasting, you can check out Spreaker.com. And if you're looking to invest in a microphone or if you're looking to genuinely start with recording, I use the Blue Yeti microphone, but you may prefer to do the Samson Meteor. Just know that if it's your craft and it's something that you're meant to do it and do it well. That's my main thing to tell people about 2019. Do it and be reliable. Y'all take it easy.